What's up YouTube? Have you ever wondered how to make these seemingly random yet programmed glitchy percussion loops, kind of something like this? What if I told you that there was a plugin that within minutes could generate infinite variations of these kinds of glitchy percussion patterns? Let's dive in and have a look. So the plugin that we're going to be looking at today is called Audiosyndrom PlayBeat 3. So I never actually looked at PlayBeat 1 or 2. It seems like I probably should have because I really like this plugin. So I can't tell you what new features I added in the third version. That being said, I still think this is an absolutely game-changing plugin. Not just for this very specific use case that I'm going to show you guys. I kind of want to talk about how the plugin works, talk about a couple of things before I dive into the kind of specific glitchy percussions thing. So let's just have a look at the interface. You know, on a simple level, you could use this just to kind of trigger and sequence very simple kind of drum loops. Let's say, for example, like a simple percussion pattern. What we can do is we can isolate each channel like this, click the first one, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and load a couple of different examples up and then show you guys how we can program them within the plugin. So for just like a simple beat, I mean, we could do something like this. So on a simple level, that's kind of how the plugin works. But the magic of this plugin and the magic of a lot of audio modern stuff is the ability to randomize things. So there's various ways we could do it. We could either hit this big red button over here, and that's going to randomize various parameters within our sequence, or we could set up the auto random. So how this works is you press this button over here, and this number determines how many loops it's going to cycle before it randomly generates new patterns. So let's say, for example, loop twice, and let's see what the results are. So by selecting a individual channel like this, we can set it so that it only randomizes on that particular channel. Check this out. So this is where it's particularly interesting. I haven't seen this, or maybe I just missed it before in an Audiosyndrom plugin, is you can have individual looped auto randoms, different sizes for individual lanes in the sampler, which is pretty cool. So like on every bar, you can randomize the snare. On every 2 bars, you can randomize the kick. On every 3 or 4, whatever, you can randomize the hi-hats and stuff. So this is really cool. But for this type of thing, you know, with dance music, generally you want a more kind of regimented kick and snare pattern, and it's just the other kind of like ear candy which you use to kind of which you randomize on the top. So another thing to just wrap your head around, like how those glitchy kick drums and stuff were being created, is there's this flam parameter, pitch and density, volume and pan. So there's various different parameters that you can randomize. So if, for example, we jump into the flam and we set some of these parameters up like this, it's going to glitch some of those kick drums. Okay, so anyway, what I want to do is let's just initialize this real quick. And I want to show you guys how I make these random glitchy retriggered percussion-y loops. So the trick is to go in and choose generally like hi-hats, anything that's kind of like a high frequency transient. What we're going to do is we're going to end up like just using the transient of the sound. We're going to end up chopping a lot of the other sounds out. So it's good to find something with a very kind of like high frequency transient. So the trick now is to go into each one and edit the tails. So if you click on the layers, it opens up the sample editor portion, which you can change the sample endpoint, but you can also give it some fade out. So if we go into each layer, we can actually edit it so it's like just the transient of the sound. And that's how we get these kind of like glitchy patterns, because once it randomizes those retriggers, you kind of get these like clicky sounds, and that's where the magic starts to happen. So just to have something to work with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press all over here and then just random this. And while it's playing, I'm just going to jump into the samples and edit them one by one. So another couple of things about the plugin's interface. What you can do is you can actually open this mixer and you have individual volume control for each one. You can mute, you can solo individual layers, which is really, really cool. We can also press 32 over here. So this gives us 32 steps rather than 16. So we can create like a lot more complex patterns using this setting. But here as well, each of the layers has individual amount of step size, so we can create these like really complex polymetric kind of rhythms by just changing each one to like an individual step size. And then what we can do is we can jump back to all and just turn the randomization process off, so we have more of a forced random when we click the red button. Check this out. So these min and max parameters over here, these control how much steps get added in the randomization process. Notice how these, the white dots like loop around and then they kind of like break the loop. They're kind of like out of sync, but that's what creates these kind of like what sounds like never-ending randomized patterns, but there is program to them. You know, there is a kind of sense of the technicality to them. So here, another really, really cool thing about the plugin is you can actually just export these loops directly from the plugin by dragging it from this menu over here and dropping it into your project's timeline. So by doing that, we can actually just, you know, create a loop, jump back to the previous menu, randomize again, then jump back to the export menu, drop the loop into the project, and so on and so forth. And we just literally just repeat the pattern, and we've got, you know, infinite variations of these glitchy randomized things. Or we could just leave the plugin on, let it randomize every few bars or whatever, and do its thing. So there's various ways of playing this plugin, which I think is really cool. That's another kind of thing I really enjoy about the Audio Modern things, is there's kind of so many different ways you can do it. You can use the plugin in so many different contexts. Speaking of which, you can send MIDI out of the plugin and trigger various different other plugins, hardware, all sorts of things like that. That's done in the cog icon menu in the top right over here. This is interesting. I don't think I've seen this in a plugin before, where you can actually choose directly from within the plugin itself. You can choose the MIDI channels. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So anyway, we've got 4 loops of this pattern. Let's have a listen to what we've created here. Awesome. That about sums it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. A big thanks to AudioModern for sending me this plugin for the purpose of this video. If I had known about PlayBeat 1 or 2 when they were out, I probably would have just bought it, because this is actually such a cool concept. But that being said, it's always cool when companies reach out to me and just say, hey, check this out. There was no obligation. I'm not sending them this video to make sure that my opinion is a certain way before I release it. They just sent me the plugin. They were like, hey, check this out. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that like button. See you guys next time. Cheers.